Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is interpretation and sensation. And we're going to talk about how the way we experience or speak of or relate to our our physical sensations impacts our actual experience. It's a very rich topic. So before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you just settle in for a moment, and as you exhale, release any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today, we're talking about interpretation and sensation. And this conversation comes from two things that happened yesterday, actually. One was that I was speaking with a client who had a lot of experience in life with physical pain, and those experiences started manifesting into almost phobic sorts of responses, where there was such an aversion to pain or such a fear of pain that it inhibited them from simple or things that most of us consider simple or basic um, self-care kinds of things, like going to the dentist, getting their teeth cleaned, etc. So we were talking about pain and launched into the conversation that when we define pain as pain, our inclination is to brace against it, to constrict around it. And when we constrict around it, what happens is that pain is amplified, and the experience, just by defining it as pain, becomes something even more unpleasant. And so we were saying, well, what if instead of defining that sensation as pain, you just acknowledge it as sensation and can then allow yourself to deepen into the experience of that sensation. And the remarkable thing that happens when we do that is that the whole experience shifts, the sensation shifts. It's really extraordinary, actually. Um, so the other impetus for this conversation was that I I had my own personal breakthrough yesterday. So this is a big deal for me. It may seem silly or it may seem stupid to listen, those of you listening, but for me it was a really big deal. So for years, this is about changing your story, change your life. For years, I have said, I hate the cold, I hate the winter. I get cold in the beginning of the winter and I don't thaw out until the spring. And I just had this whole story about being the victim of winter, so to speak. So yesterday I was outside, um, and it was really frigid cold, really frigid cold with moisture in the air, so that the cold sort of was this penetrating cold. And I started out by saying, I hate the cold, and bracing against it. And then I had the opportunity to just say, well, wait a second. There's this incredible freshness, this incredible crispness that I'm experiencing on my cheeks, and the sensation of it, rather than trying to defend myself against it and brace myself against it, the experience of the crispness on my skin, and the awakeness that I felt, and feeling the sensation of it, I actually got into it. I actually enjoyed it. And this is something that I know a lot of people really enjoy the cold and enjoy skiing. And in fact, I imagine myself enjoying the cold and skiing, and feeling that briskness, and having it be something that brought vitality and aliveness. And it was a very simple thing, but it was a massive breakthrough. And I noticed then, as I was allowing myself to be really present to the deliciousness of the sensation, all of a sudden I was seeing all the, city lights and the colors, and everything was brighter. So it was a heightening of all my senses, and the deliciousness of settling into and experiencing the cold expanded into just a deeper, richer experience of just being, and being present to all the magic that was around and is always around. So what happened? What happened? One aspect is I stopped resisting. This is the biggest aspect, probably, is I stopped resisting the experience. And I allowed myself to have the richness of it. So I talked a little while ago about this book called The Having, and that's my intention for this year, is to move into, to relax into, to embrace the having. And that's not necessarily, it's not in any way restricted to material things. It's about being in the abundance of the present, and the richness of all of it, which we are sensual beings. We experience life through our senses. And when I say uh, that we experience life through our senses, I'm also thinking of, well, we experience life through our thoughts, and our thoughts also create sensations, like our emotional experience too. So when we can be present, really what it is radical presence. That's what we're talking about, is being able to allow ourselves to be in the deliciousness of the moment, to find the ecstasy even in a moment. Here's something that I had resisted, that I had defined as I hate winter, instead of, wow, this is pretty amazing. I mean, the contrast of this briskness and the different physical sensations of it, and how that cold can just take your breath away. And we know that cold can be very stimulating for health, with the ice baths and such, and allowing ourselves to expand into that dimension of experience, additional dimensions of experience, rather than trying to fight life off, fighting off what's there, to allow ourselves to receive it. And I think that that's what the breakthrough was, in so many ways, was a breakthrough in receiving, being able to welcome something that expanded my experience. And also being able to recognize that was kind of fun, to recognize that here was a change, here was an awakening, and I was able to even to be present to that too, in addition to the benefit of that experience itself. So what in your life do you have a story about? So really just changing the story, change the experience. What in your life do you have a story about that if you were to shift it, there would be an opening? Because I was talking about a whole season, right? Where I was hiding myself away and limiting myself, putting additional constraints, guardrails, whatever, on myself in winter. It's like I'm going to avoid winter instead of just really being able to enjoy it. How are you maybe defining things in such a way that you're creating hardship for yourself? Because winter's going to happen. I mean, you may be in a cold place or you may not, but winter's going to happen, right? Wherever you are, however it shows up. And we can complain about it, or rain is going to happen, or snow is going to happen, all depending where you are, of course. So what are we going to do about it? There are certain things we can relax into. We can expand ourselves to include room for those experiences, which is so enriching. And I'm not saying to be complacent or accepting of circumstances that are horrible circumstances. Yes, we get to transform those circumstances too, to take action. And we get to embrace things as they are. So Rosalind says, mine would be traveling. It's stressful and uncomfortable. And certainly, Rosalind, with the with the notion that traveling is stressful and uncomfortable, it's going to be, right? So how can you change your story that shifts your experience? Because what I notice is that when I'm rushing, when I am trying to, when I want things to be a certain way and things don't go that way, that can be stressful. So the question is, how do we alleviate the stress in our experience? And one way is to say, okay, I'm on an adventure. This travel, it's an adventure. And there's a certain point at which there are certain things you can't control. So I'm going to give you an example, and this was amazing. This was an amazing example. I was traveling home from California, and I had the flight landed in Texas, and the flight was late, which is, there's nothing I could do about it. The flight was late. It made me miss my connecting flight. I could have been all freaked out. And this was an opportunity to practice one of the things that I share all the time, which is life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. So I missed the flight. I went to customer service. I said, I missed the flight. This is where I'm headed. And I wasn't stressed out. And the woman at the service counter, she had the same last name as I did. And we talked about heritage, and it was very interesting and sweet. And she found me the last seat on the next flight, the very last seat on the next flight, which was, I think, only an hour away or an hour or two away. And so I get on the plane, and that last seat was a window seat. Meantime, I'm just like, okay, it's gonna, I can't control it. It is what it is. I'm just gonna ride with it, let it be an adventure rather than stressing out. So it's a window seat. When is the last seat on a flight a window seat? And it was on the left side of the plane. And as we're approaching Philadelphia, the captain says, if you look out the left side of the plane, you'll see the northern lights. Now, northern lights have been on my bucket list, like my dream to see the northern lights. And here I was on a plane, having missed my flight, sitting in the window seat to be able to view the northern lights over Philadelphia, of all places. And it was spectacular. I was able to take incredible photographs of it. It makes me tear up to think how magnificent a gift that was, to be able to experience something of that incredible beauty, but also to have gone through that whole experience, which could have been a nightmare. I could have made myself miserable and upset and stressed out. And instead, I chose to practice. Life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. And the gifts that were given me it was just divine. I don't know another word. It was just spectacular. And so, Rosalind, as far as travel goes, and everybody, look at our stories, look at the stories that then create the context for our experience. If I believe that travel is stressful and uncomfortable, that's what I'm sorting for. That's what I'm tuned into, is all the stresses. If I instead say, okay, I'm on this adventure, I'm letting go the reins, I'm paying attention, making the decisions and the choices that the moment is calling for. And I'm on an adventure. And it's not unfolding the way that I thought it would, but that doesn't make it bad. And then the trip becomes an adventure because we say so. It's a huge power. I'm wondering, Rosalind, if that's helpful to you, if that opens up any avenues for you. Because the physiology of our bodies changes too. When we accept something, when we allow for something, when we shift our thinking in such a way that it makes more space for an experience, our whole experience changes. Just like my experience of the cold changed. It was really cold, windy, moist in the air. So, like, it was cold. But instead of being something that I was miserable about and bracing against, it became invigorating and enlivening and delicious. So I invite you to experiment. Try it out. Try noticing when you have resistance to something. What would it take to settle into that? And that's where life is happening for me and through me rather than to me, is such a profound practice. Because it takes my shoulders from up around my ears to a place where shoulders should be, where I have more relaxation and receptivity. And I imagine that you will too. So that's the invitation for today, is find an area of resistance and notice what it's like if you release that. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And until next time, again, I'm always grateful and appreciative to have this time to share together. And